Welcome to Take It from the Ironwoman. My name is Susanne Müller, your host and the Ironwoman. This podcast is about empowering yourself and others to make real changes in the world. You will hear from everyday, smart, sophisticated, hip people like you and me. Not everybody has to be an Ironwoman to impress the world. Together, we will learn from the sports and business leaders how you can become a more successful person as an entrepreneur or a leader. It's one step at a time, one day at a time. Take your steps now. Take your big steps now. Join me on this journey to success. Take it from the Ironwoman. Today, we go to Cheyenne. Cheyenne is a modern Renaissance woman with special gifts for hope, healing, and empowerment. Her mission has always been helping people help themselves to live their best life.
Thank you. I was delighted to be and honored to be a guest on your podcast. I've enjoyed listening to others. I got started in this years ago. I had a head injury from a motorcycle accident, and I found that traditional medicine just wasn't able to kind of put me back together again. And I found someone who did a massage, but hidden behind her curtain, so to speak. She did craniosacral therapy and polarity therapy. I started to see her. My children were young then, and I had had a really bad head injury. The craniosacral and the polarity therapy that I did with her was really the beginning of unraveling the Christmas lights. As I got better and my body began to release, I found that calling to train, to take some training. I started out with a little bit of shiatsu training, and then I went on. It was good, but that wasn't really me. And I did the full polarity training. I did as far as I could take that training and did more craniosacral work. And I took Bowen theory training and put it all together. In the middle of that, had a family and was taking care of loved ones. I also work for Network of Victims Assistance, NOVA, and work the hotlines. They hired me to do talks, good touch, bad touch, be safe with strangers from pre-K to senior citizens. And my life just sort of started rolling forward. Then I opened my practice. I had a doctor 30 some years ago that was on the cutting edge. And he actually built a room for me in his office upstairs, his office building. I shared a waiting room with a Roffer and a homeopathic. And there was just a chiropractor downstairs. It was very cutting edge for the time. And they just sent me everybody that they kind of were struggling with and didn't know what to do with. And I had success over the years. I feel like the head injury, as bad as it was really opened the door and to a world I knew nothing about. I wasn't raised with anything complementary. I don't really like the word alternative because I believe in doctors and surgery and we need everybody. It's a team effort. It found me, and I just keep listening to spirit and putting one step in front of the other. And
I think it's always like a pivotal moment and things come to us. I feel like we invite the things, we make space for the things. And on your website, it says healer, modern day shaman, spatial alchemist, inspirationalist.
Being an empath, I learned that I was an empath. That was one of the reasons I had some of the challenges as a child and even as a young adult and early married. Once I understood that I was empathic, I was picking up other people's stuff. I wasn't always sad or I wasn't always in pain. It wasn't always mine. But it also was a gift when I began to do the healing work because I could pick things up. I could see things. I see things, I taste things, I hear things when I'm working with individuals. And the thing that keeps me going is listening to my clients and their success and how they're feeling. And I always felt that when I don't believe in the magic anymore, it's time for me to stop. And I know it's not me. I know I'm a conduit. I'm simply a vessel for spirit. And I know it's a gift.
A wonderful gift, the magic. Let's talk more about the magic. I think the magic is all around us, and some people are maybe blocking it out, but you
go there. You dare to go there.
Yes, I think the last podcast you did, the woman's name is totally escaping me, but she talked about how didn't realize it, but she was kind of visualizing the house she would live in one day. She had
the artist.
Yes.
The artist.
And I think it's that being able to believe. So it jokingly, I'll sometimes say, fake it till you make it, right? But that's that being able to believe. And there's also a piece of letting go, though, that non-attachment, because if you grasp onto something, sometimes you miss the really good stuff. Because it's like over here and you're looking over there and you totally missed the ride. But staying present in the now is the best you can. One of the concept or the idea of when things fall apart, and there's a wonderful book called When Things Fall Apart, and it really talks about that's a moment of regrouping, going in and going, okay, what's the silver lining? Like I studied with Dr. Bernie Siegel years ago, and he mentored me and wrote the foreword for my first book, Clarity, Wisdom, Harmony. And he said years ago, they tried so hard to prove him wrong, they proved him right. In terms of the energy and how important it is, how you talk in the OR and around people, even when they're under anesthesia. I think that's what I mean about the magic, sort of that energy, the thing that we really don't know. There's so much we really don't know. Realize that there's more to just the physical world that we have. Just mind making a connection with you. We were talking earlier. That's the magic. The connectors in our world and how you meet someone and they say, oh, you need to meet so-and-so. And then it just takes you along your journey.
Sometimes people are afraid, but they don't want to take that leap. What is that? How can we help them?
Change. Like we like to get in that comfort zone. I remember in my training or somewhere once being told that the thing that gets in the way of great is good. I'm good. I'll just hang out here because I might stumble. I might have some feedback, which we call failure, which is probably one of the worst. I don't think that's really good. I love the idea that nothing's good and nothing's bad. Everything just is. Now that's easier said than done. I can sit here and we can sit here and talk about all this. Well, okay, but can we walk that talk? I know personally, I'll sit with a client and I'll be like, I just finished this journey, or I have a few tools you could try. I don't know if the way I did it will work for you, but here's something to try. It's trying something new. If we want a different outcome, we need a different action. And it's really about that. But I think people get this idea that, oh, life is supposed to be all grand. And when it isn't, something's wrong. But I think it's just part of the journey. It's how we navigate it. It's what do you want to do with it?
I think so. And it's one step at a time. And if we fall back, then we just have to take 2 steps ahead. I think sometimes we're just too hard on ourselves, me included, when the change is there. But that change is everywhere, even if we don't like it. I mean, every day is a different day.
I've never hiked a mountain as you have. However, when I was doing my last book, Because It Matters, A Guide to Getting Your Life in Order Before You Die, I felt a real calling to do that. I started working on it and I hired people and I had a lot of people review it, a doctor and lawyer. I joke, an Indian chief, but just like I had a lot of people give me feedback on the book, and quitting was an option. I would have quit. I'm done with this. I had invested tons of money, lots of hours. It was not a happy subject. It brought up a lot of stuff around my dad's last 4 years of his life. It's not about that, but it reminded me of all the paperwork I got together. It's really about getting your wishes known and checklists and stuff. But it was a hard topic to write about because in the back, I write stories about clients that have come to see me who their family members didn't have their paperwork in order, or they were in a coma and we don't know what to do, or we didn't even know they had a pet at home, these kinds of things. So it was not a happy topic to work on. And more than once, I wanted to quit. I wanted to quit so bad. And I got near what I thought was the end. And I described it when friends would say, so how's the book going, Cheyenne? And I'd be like, well, I feel like it's almost like I have hiked in Colorado in the mountains and stuff. And one time my husband and I went for a hike and he says, oh, let's just go to the top. And I'm like, hon, I don't think that's the top. And he's like, let's just keep going. We're trekking and we're going to have to come down off the mountain in the dark. Okay, let's go. And we get to the top and we're not at the top. There's yet another, and who knows if there was another. And I said, it seems like I felt like I was there. And then the next leg of having people review it and give me feedback and get it edited was like, it got steeper. And that every step I took or handhold was needed to be more calculated and more focused and took more energy, even though it wasn't as long a distance. The intensity of it it just got greater and greater. And you're like, but you're so close, you can't quit. As I said, that was the analogy I had, that when I finally got to the top, I was just exhausted, but exhilarated, like, yay.
Somebody once said to me, the closer you are to the top, the harder it gets. But I think that's when the real work starts.
What is there a saying, like when it gets tough, the tough get going or something? Like you need to like step back, regroup. I think I did step back and I said, no, I'm going to continue. It had to be reviewed by certain people, and whatever amount of time that took, I was going to let it take its time. It was that resting point of like, oh, I'm not there yet. But I think going back to, a lot of people stay where they are because it's easy. You didn't get to the top of that mountain because it was easy. No.
As a solo entrepreneur, I can only tell my story. It's hard.
I think that's a value, though, to reach out to others, or even listening to your podcast. It's inspiring. Okay, here's somebody else. Here's another way. Just to like tune into one of your podcasts and hear someone else's inspiration is really helpful when you are me, myself, and I.
And what do you do when you don't work? How do you rejuvenate?
I find Mother Nature to be the most rejuvenating space and place. Not to say that I don't utilize energy medicine, cranial sacral work, obviously hydrating with good, clean water, eating clean food as much as possible. And I say that I've done talks about sometimes you can't get that. Bless it. Be grateful you have a body that can assimilate it rather than stress out over it. I mean, we can eat a totally alkaline diet, but if we're thinking acidic, it'll turn acidic. It's really interesting. I learned that in my early classes, some of the studies they did. So it's how can we shift our mindset when we are, because we're all going to have stress. We're all going to have times in our life where things are hard. Someone we love is diagnosed with cancer, or someone passes away, or empty nest, or job change, or what can we do to shift that and really appreciate what is working? I have to do it myself. It's like the glass is half full, not half empty. What is working? Is there one thing working? When things are really falling apart, can you find one thing? If that's, I have clean air to breathe, I have water to drink and a roof over my head. If I have to start that basic, I will start that basic. On a day when I'm really sad, or maybe I've had, clients that are going through some really hard stuff. That's, I think, being outside Mother Nature is probably my greatest, and my grandbabies.
You spoke about the clean diet. What is your favorite food?
Interestingly, I struggled throughout most of my life with all kinds of dietary issues or not feeling good, and found out that I needed to be gluten-free. I'm gluten-free. I have to say that has made a huge difference. It was a little bit of a challenge in the beginning because I didn't also realize that I had an allergy to corn. They aren't as bad as gluten, but so many gluten-free products are made with corn and almonds. Until I learned about rice and pea powders and different things, it was an interesting journey to get where I am today. We have a working farm ranch operation here. We raise grass-fed beef, so clean meats. When I don't eat a lot of red meat, but when I do, it's clean meats. We raise our own chickens, organic feed, same thing with eggs. So I try to go as much as I can organic, non-GMO. We raise non-GMO corn, but again, we can't always have that. I did a talk one time and somebody asked me about it, and I shared a story about being down in the Bahamas with my girlfriend, and lovely, lovely family friends. They hosted my husband and I, we were there and we got invited to a beach party. And we get to the beach party and there's like hot dogs. What are you going to eat? And I wouldn't normally eat a hot dog unless it was made from our beef and by a family member that makes them. Like I needed protein. It was that simple. Like my blood sugar was going to crash if I didn't have some protein. Didn't have a roll that I said thank you. And I gave thanks. And I asked my body to assimilate that to the best of its ability. And that's not something I make a steady diet of, but I do believe in how we think about something makes a big difference. We have a lot of power between our ears. How we think about it is huge.
What do you read? I mean, you're an author of 3 books.
Oftentimes inspirational. The last book I read that was a novel I loved was The Midnight Libraries, about a woman who she didn't want to live. She was suicidal and she was going to take her life before midnight. In that, she went into the midnight libraries. And in the library, all the volumes were different aspects of her life had she gone a certain way or made a different choice. Mm-hmm. I believe there was a movie years ago called The Slider or something, where the woman gets on the subway and her life, she meets somebody and gets married and she has this life. If she doesn't get on the subway and she goes up the stairs and turns left on the city block, she does something else. And so it was really interesting. I like to listen to things and read things that have to do with positive thinking, inspirational. I'm really hooked on podcasts and audibles right now just because I can listen to them when I'm doing dishes and cooking. Because I live a regular old life here on the farm. Enjoy today, because we really don't know if we have tonight or tomorrow. We like to think we do, but we don't really know. Seize the moment.
And thank you so much for all your insights. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
How inspirational was that? What are you taking away? What changes will you make? Take it from the Ironwoman. We have episodes every Monday after 300 episodes, still going strong. And if you like this episode, get the book. Take it from the Ironwoman, Global Business Coaching with Sports Parallels. We can learn from sports, we can learn from business, we can learn from life, as we just heard from Cheyenne.